And welcome back to The Wrap. Well, religious rights advocates are sounding the alarm about the impact of the Supreme Court's decision on same-sex marriage, due out sometime next month. If the High Court rules gay marriage should be the law of the land, it could have an impact on the tax-exempt status of religious universities. During last week's oral arguments before the Supreme Court, Justice Samuel Alito asked the Obama administration if a religious college would lose its tax-exempt status if it refused, for example, to provide housing to same-sex couples. The Solicitor General did not directly answer that question, but acknowledged that it could be an issue. Religious rights advocates are also concerned legalizing same-sex marriage nationwide could also have an impact on faith-based charities as well. So Brad Hirschfield, should the Supreme Court's decision on same-sex marriage have any effect on the tax-exempt status of
Maybe.
universities?
Here's the thing. Emotionally, I quickly want to say no, it shouldn't. Because it would be a weird thing to find ourselves in a moment of intolerance toward religious people in the name of tolerance. And I think you'd be very, very careful about that. Oftentimes people arrogate to themselves the privilege of, well, we're the tolerant ones, you're the morons, so we don't have to have any respect for you. And that does really disturb me. But now let's go back real quickly and remember that Alito's question about marriage and same-sex marriage and married coupled housing goes back to Bob Jones University. The Supreme Court actually stripped Bob Jones University of its tax-exempt status because they had a policy against interracial dating and interracial marriage. And I read some comments today by a guy I respect a great deal, R. Albert Mohler. He's the president of the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. Serious Christian, serious scholar, very much opposed to same-sex marriage. But listen to his words. The policy of Bob Jones University remains a moral blight to this day, even though the university has since rescinded the policy. So here's the thing. If that which was once fought against in the name of people's faith turns out some years later to be considered a moral blight by many of those same people, at the very least, we should be aware the court may be stepping in to help religious groups avoid another version of moral blight that they will come to regret down the road.
How is this similar to Memories Pizza and what we saw in Indiana as far as not baking a cake for a gay wedding, for instance, or a pizza place having it? And again, I don't know who has pizza at a wedding. I think it's a
You're
phenomenal
still upset
idea.
about the pizza at the wedding.
No, I love it actually that we don't do it enough. But still, I understood the argument from both sides completely, and I understand the argument here to a certain extent as well.
And I think that's the key. I think there is a difference. Forcing people to do business with others they may not want to do business with, excuse me, in celebration of values they don't share, I think is a problem. But the line there gets very, very, fuzzy, and I think that's a good thing because this is very new. We're a divided country on this issue. So I get it. You don't want to bake the cake because a couple is gay. I think that's wrong. You don't want to put two men on top of the cake for them. I think that's right. I think these schools have a right to do business as they want to, but I think the country and the Supreme Court have a right to set parameters and say, look, you can do business as you want, but there will be certain cost to you, and you will lose certain federal protection or tax-exempt status. I don't think that's unreasonable.
No, it'll be interesting when this becomes a bigger issue, the media coverage of it. And we saw with DOMA how pro-gay it was in terms of it was, I think it was 5-1. It was a survey that I read in terms of pro, in terms of against with that particular ruling. And I wonder what we're going to see here when this comes to the forefront.
Yeah, you can never predict how the court's going to play out just by listening to the oral arguments. And there were some very serious arguments from the justices suggesting that they didn't necessarily want to step in and redefine the institution of marriage. But legally, it suggests a lot of people believe that they're going to move forward and make marriages from one state apply to another, and that makes a lot of sense. Politically, I really think that this is probably the best thing that could happen to Republicans. In the long term, it probably makes this issue a little bit more stickier and puts people in their camps and makes everybody more recalcitrant, but it does take the issue off the table for Republicans in 2016 to be the party against gay marriage. There is not an issue of gay marriage anymore on the table for 2016. 2017, you have the issue of taxes, you have the issue of a variety of other ironing those real thorny issues out. But the political issue is neutralized, and it's an issue that cuts against the GOP very strongly right now.
Rick Santorum is going to announce, I believe, next week that he's running for president, and he'll be one of the few candidates out there that is against gay marriage. Do you think that a candidate can survive in that sort of platform? I guess Huckabee, you could put in that category as well, very much so.
In the primary, in the primary, sure, certainly there's a place for them. Rick Santorum did better than any other candidate besides Mitt Romney in 2012. Rick Santorum won something like 11 states. He was in it to the end of the game. He's the heir apparent. So there's definitely room for a socially conservative nominee in the party.
At least in the primary, as you said.
At least in the primary. And I could see them moving forward, but you know, that would be the end of it.
Right. Jonathan.
You know, I think we need to start differentiating between hate and discrimination versus religious beliefs. And I think that is something that's core to this that's being completely ignored because of politics. Once again, politics has taken an issue that really shouldn't be an issue and made it into this giant crisis. And the fact is, we need to start looking at what what our rights are in this country, and also what people's rights are to believe what they want to believe versus discrimination. That's totally different.
And that'll be the last word on that. Very well said. Coming up next, what qualities make a good president? You may be shocked to find what America thinks. Stay right there. This is the Daily Wrap, only on Newsmax TV, live from New York City.